I'm Rachel Padilla. I'm an artist. Recently, I've been asked a question, and it's kind of come up a lot. And that question is, why do I create so many self-portraits? I recently wrote about my work, and I said that it is about the progression of time by capturing moments. Experiencing the full range of human emotions is universal. Being an individual, however, can often feel very isolating, which is why I do self-portraits. Through the shared experience of memory and sensation, I want my art to connect with the viewer, to evoke a sense of commonality in the shared totality of human experience. If I were to say that simply, it would be that I create self-portraits because I have a very strong emotion that I want to convey, an experience. And by pouring my heart, my soul, my guts into a painting, I hope that a viewer will look at that and say, hey, I've felt that. I know what that's like. So I thought I'd take the time today to share the emotion and inspiration behind some of those works. Mary Magdalene. Grief, depression, isolation. Human emotions. And when I first saw the pictures of Mary Magdalene depicted in fur, I had to do it. It was that knowing of, I know exactly what that feels like. And to understand the emotion and inspiration of that, I have to go back a few years, a little background. 4 years ago, my father was doing the work of a much younger man, and he had a massive heart attack and died instantly. And in the process of dealing with that grief and everything that goes with planning a funeral and the death of a loved one, within a month, my brother also passed away. So it was these two deaths that were just compounded. And as is the case often, unfortunately, grief and death bring out the worst aspects of people, and feelings were hurt. I felt betrayed and lost contact with many people that I thought loved me, just like Mary Magdalene. And then just dealing with that over the years. And I made these paintings intentionally difficult to look at because no one wants to talk about grief or depression or isolation or death. And when you are experiencing those things, you feel isolated. You feel like you're the only person on the planet that's ever been through that kind of grief. And you feel like you're lost in the wilderness of your own mind. You feel like you may as well have grown fur all over your body because you feel like a sideshow. So the intention was to make these difficult to look at because it's a difficult subject to address. The reason I'm addressing this series first is because this was the most emotionally taxing series of paintings I've probably ever created. I'm a very private person. I don't want to put my emotions on Front Street, so I've never talked about the inspiration or the emotion behind them because that feels so private. But it also defeats the purpose of making these things known to the world. Every time I took a reference photo, it was a genuine emotion captured. Every time I painted myself in these poses, I had to face that grief again and again on a daily basis. It was very emotionally trying, very emotionally draining. But I feel like it was also so therapeutic to paint that, to get it out of me and create something outside of myself with it. The Giantess. Vulnerability, exposure. It's been a very vulnerable, humbling experience to put my work out online, to share videos of the process of my work and aspects of myself on YouTube. And it makes me feel, like I said, vulnerable and a little bit exposed. And at a certain point, I started getting a lot of views, a lot of hits on my website, and I wondered how to convey that emotion of bearing my soul, making myself bare, essentially. And I thought of how people around the world were suddenly seeing my work from great distances. And that's when I had the idea to create a giantess, something that can't be hidden. It is highly visible, it's seen from great distances. So in thinking about a giant and the visibility of a giant and the invulnerability of a giant was a way to kind of grapple those things and take my vulnerability and make it invulnerable, and purposely lay myself bare against, a couch that looks like a giant mountain, to convey that this is something that can be seen from great distances. This is a giantess, and though she's vulnerable in a sense, she's indestructible and visible and massive. And then the second piece that I did in the Giantess series was the giantess coming over a mountain. So she's mounting the obstacles, and in that way making herself invulnerable. Nothing can hold her back. Childlike wonder, joy, and playfulness. I'm not all about all the serious emotions. In fact, I prefer the lighter, funner side of life. And that's what the series about Childlike Wonder was all about. It started with Tutu Stretch, which was really just kind of the first painting or depiction of my tutu and my boots and my big red ball. And that was kind of getting down the technical aspects of how to create a series of art that was joyful and playful and fun. And the second in the series was Tutu and Boots. And that's just trying to capture that sense of not caring what anybody thinks about what you're wearing. It's been a long time since I was a little girl in a big hat, a silly shawl, a pretty dress, and funny shoes, and feeling great about myself. So I wanted to capture that in this series. And then there was the Hop Along series, and I wanted to capture that movement of my hair flying in the wind and the tutu bouncing and the ball bouncing, and just convey that fun. Another in that series are the Bubble and Bubble Burst, and I just had this memory of chewing bubble gum and loving it and blowing bubbles and how much fun that is. And I did have people really comment on that and say, oh, I remember that. This was my favorite flavor of bubblegum was watermelon or cotton candy. And just connecting to a sense of joy and a sense of pleasure in the little things. And then the last one I did in that series was First Lick of Summer. And that was completely motivated by that moment of time when it's finally warm enough and ice cream seems like a really good idea. And how it begins to melt in the warmth of the day, but how good that first taste is. And I really enjoyed painting the dress, again with the fun clothing, little moments, little fragments of joy and life that are fun and interesting. This is probably my favorite ongoing series, and I'm sure there's more to come in it. So why do I create self-portraits? Well, it's because life is such a rich tapestry of good, bad, and everything in between. And I want to capture those moments, those emotions, and share my experience. And hopefully when you see these paintings, when other people see these paintings, there's a sense of companionship, a sense of not being alone, because someone else has felt that, someone else has been there, no matter what it is. And I'll continue to put my heart and soul into my work and use my own image, because it's like they say about writing, write what you know. Well, I know my own inner workings pretty well, so I'll continue to paint what I know.